Hayao Miyazaki. To understand how the artist's style was formed, what makes him stand out, and why his works are considered interrelated. Feminism. Hayao Miyazaki always said that there was a lack of female characters in animation. So in most cases, the main characters of his stories were children and even more often, girls. He gave them courage. Sometimes he contrasted stereotypes about female and male behavior because the author knows very well how much our world is fasted and there are many people who are unlike each other. And to give them certain character traits inherent in dividing them in gender is pretty stupid. That's a cliche. It goes beyond what we are used to. At that point of view, we can safely call him a feminist. For example, in his film Howl's Moving Castle, when the Wasteland Witch turned out protagonist of the story, Sophia, from a young girl to a hatchbacked old woman, she accepted it with courage. She took control of her emotions and went in search of the solution of the problem. While Howl in the same movie, the kind and great wizard went into hysterics and turned into a pile of green goo and Sophia rearranged the shampoo and hair dye tubes in his bathroom. Details. Details are a way to make your story more realistic so that the audience would sincerely believe in the existence of this world. One of the techniques Miyazaki uses is to saturate the background with a variety of characters with unique reactions to what is happening. Hayao Miyazaki pays attention to details, and I personally think that's one of the most defining qualities of successful directors. Quote:
"In our work, the question is how much you absorb from others. So for me, creativity is really like a relay race. As children, we are handed a baton. Rather than passing it on to the next generation as is first, we need to digest it and make it our own."
One girl kneels to avoid staining the floor. Totoro. Another girl puts on her shoes and taps on the floor to see if she's wearing them comfortably. Spirited Away. Such detailing creates a unique personality for the characters that the viewer unconsciously believe in. After all, everyone knows the so-called body language. Our unconscious brain scans the movements, facial expressions, and the slightest movements of our body, creating a ready-made analysis of a person in our head. This process cannot be turned off. That's why it is so important to pay full attention to this in animation. Cinematography is not about words, huge text, and dark lines, but it's about emotions, improvisation, feelings, and visual storytelling. Visualization. One of his brilliant visual solutions was the Howl's Moving Castle, how the theme of aging is presented, how Hayao Miyazaki opened the topic of aging in this film. In cinema, love in old age is rarely touched upon, and if it is, it's often not in children's works. But life does not end at wedding and after the famous phrase, "and they lived happily ever after." Love stories also do not end. I would call it like this: old women know how to love too. Depending on the feelings that Sophie experiences, she changes her age. When she's around Howl and has tender feelings, or when she's worried and cared for Howl, she turns into a young girl that Howl notices, but her eyes can't see it. And in fact, she has an endless spectrum from a young girl to a cartoonish stereotypical old woman. In dreams, she's again shown as a young girl. After all, there's a well-known phrase, "baby sleep." In the minds of people, it is an innocent state of dreams. At certain moments, we can also see Sophia, a middle-aged woman, or a young woman with a gray hair, or an old woman, but with a straightened back, and again far from the old woman. Of course, This is not described in a book, and even in the film itself it's not explained in any way. It means that it's not a part of a plot and does not affect on the storytelling, but it helps us to better feel the character and his emotions at certain moments. Miyazaki's genius. He removes some childish themes by the opposition. Even the inscriptions on the airplanes have been worked out, which is obvious because his knowledge is in this area, as well as history, allows him to create pictures with real facts, inscriptions, the existence of residents of any time. In the film Porco Rosso, there's a short where the Ghibli logo is on the plane's agent. Who does not know, Miyazaki named his company after the Italian aircraft Caproni Ca 309 Ghibli. The concept. The transformation of the main witch of the wasteland, the enemy of our two main characters, into a harmless old woman out of her mind, whom Sophia took with her and looked after all the time, teaches children help and sympathy. Also in the film The Wind Rises, the man shared sweets. Hayao Miyazaki himself said that when he was little, his father gave chocolate to neighbors in need. What had taught him before? Films are aimed at children audience, but in fact, most of its consumers are adults. The production of the film begins a year before its release, so no one knows how the film will end until the team has completed the production process. Miyazaki does not write screenplays. Although he does storyboards for all of his films, he trusts his feelings and his ideas may change from time to time until the end of the production. Sometimes a studio can't finish a movie and has to scrap an idea or leave it until another time, as it was with the Howl's Moving Castle. Quote from the TV program. It may sound ridiculous, but sometimes employees tell me that they have no idea what is happening in our films. When we did Spirited Away, I myself had no idea. What does a person know about our world? The world is not so simple as to explain it in words. Nature, technology, war in Miyazaki's pictures. Miyazaki was a son and nephew of two aircraft designers. It's not surprising that the film The Wind Rises reflects childhood dreams of becoming a pilot, and then an aircraft designer by the director himself. He dreamed of flying and studied biographies of people who built airplanes, due to the fact that he was short-sighted, who could not become a pilot, and therefore dreamed of building airplanes. And if I thought for a second that he had lost my attention, and I managed to jump from the director's life to the life of the character of this dream, of this film, Jiro Horikoshi, then this is not so. Miyazaki himself was surprised to learn the details about the life information of Jiro Horikoshi, the hero of his cartoon inspired by the life of a real Japanese aircraft designer, Jiro Horikoshi. But this is not the end. In fact, The Wind Rises is the title of a story written by peer of Jiro Horikoshi, Tazio Hori, and the name The Wind Rises is a line from Pelle Valerioso poem, Floating by the Sea. Miyazaki's film actually contained a huge number of references and myths. Many of his characters was inspired by Japanese and world mythology and folklore. None of his characters were pure blueprints and pre-existing characters, unless Kiki is like a little witch with a black coat. Hayao Miyazaki has always admired military aviation, as his father ran a factory during the war, producing parts for the military aircraft. Therefore, Miyazaki adopts the Wind Rises characters with many of his father's traits. Ghibli's company was named after the Italian aircraft, Caproni Ca 309 Ghibli. I would also like to ask you a question. Moving away from the topic of cinema, do you think war is a progress or stagnation of our society? Serious topics for children content. Everyone considered this film as the juvenile, infantile, childlike, and naive. But in fact, the film contains quite serious topics, such as the mother's death fear, the father immersed in work and who does not have time for his daughters, May, who got lost several times, and the last time the whole village was looking for her, in the lake. And I personally cried at that moment, although she knew where May was at that time. Also, May was alone because her sister was busy looking for new friends at school, and therefore it was very easy to expect Totoro as her imaginary friends than magical creatures of the forest. In the beginning of the film, we cannot understand if that's the May's imagination or if they are real. In addition, he narrates visually global themes of culture, showing this for the Japanese religion of Zennism. We also saw a Buddhist temple in my neighbor of Totoro, where the girls waited out the rain, in general, about spirituality, about nature. Miyazaki even premieres the use of Totoro in a band of environmental activists. At the end of My Neighbor Totoro, the girl mother says, "It seemed to me that I saw girls on a train." There are different options between Miyazaki fans. One is that a sick mother is on the verge edge of life and death, and therefore she's able to see the otherworldly for a split-second peace. Miyazaki's films are built on empathy and reality. Empathy is transmitted, perceived by the viewer and their own view of the characters. The audience reveal the theme inherent in the work themselves, with the same package of knowledge and experience that they have and can understand for their age, and the reality Miyazaki shows for the well-developed picture and the unpredictability of our life, like Kiki's delivery service. One heard a phrase in the office that became his principle in all his works. And the film, Kiki's Delivery Service, which is also considered one of his films that are easy to watch and that don't cause bright, sad, or hard emotions, such as the biographical film The Wind Rises. Miyazaki reveals the topics such as leaving the parental home, first salary, how to organize routine, cook pancakes parts, moving to the new area, finding friends, overcoming the first crisis. Many people are interested why Kiki wasn't able to speak with her cat at the end. I read and heard many answers from the various critics because I was also worried in this question, but I suggest it's better to hear Miyazaki's answer.
Towards the end of the film, Gigi doesn't speak to Kiki anymore because they grew up, not because she lost her power.
By the way, the reduction of the airship to the clock tower was a real story in Europe. The image of the mother who makes Kiki fly on her broom, although Kiki has her own, also refers to the conflict between parents and children, the problems of choosing and accepting the development paths of different generations. Porco Rosso, which Miyazaki does not like and considers not a children's film, calling it stupid. It is difficult to answer what exactly made the director reconsider his attitudes towards the film, but Porco Rosso really stands out against the backdrop of the tales for children and fantastic creatures. The only thing that the film touches on is anti-war sentiment, the very little and known vague biography of Porco Rosso, which tells us the story of a man who became a pig on a war. But is the main character a pig, or all the others are pigs? For Batna, Marcus' indifference and complex solutions in the picture made this film unforgettable. But in fact, Miyazaki, based on his own manga The Age of Seaplanes, created a serious philosophical work, colorful and understandable enough to be suitable for viewing by children, and moreover, multi-level and sentimental enough to delight adults. Porco Rosso is a beautiful semi-fantasy world, whose realism, due to the elaborated characters and locations, is undeniable. This is an extremely simple work, from the point of view of main meaning, which at the same time discusses an even-based list of human voices and conservative traits of kindness and courage. Visual style. Miyazaki is in love with his work. He was sharing a story when there was a time when he and his friends gave the animation everything they could, all of themselves, all of their soul. At the moment he believed that he had learned to distinguish between work and personal life. But many of his colleagues will disagree with him because who've not discussed from his studio know how many hours Miyazaki actually spends drawing in the studio. He's a huge workaholic and perfectionist. He does all the important works by himself, from the elaboration of the main character to the storyboards, and even the frames themselves. He does not allow a single character to be created by other animators. In addition, he continues to refine films even after the full acceptance of the picture and a week before the premiere. That's how much Miyazaki is devoted to work. Therefore, we can say with confidence that this person deserves to be one of the famous and influential people in the cinema all over the world. Among film critics, it is also considered to be brilliantly directed scenes of Kiki flying on a broomstick. Her mood is conveyed through the good construction of nature and a frame. In order to understand what influenced the unique and easily recognizable style in his paintings, you need to make out which directors Miyazaki was looking at and what works and themes he was inspired by. This list includes Lev Atamanov with his painting The Snow Queen and Yuri Neurenstein, Hedgehog in a Fog. Exchange of experience with the Pixar studio and his friend John Lasseter with the Aardman studio and Nick Park. The King of the Birds, The Legend of the White Snake. Atamanov is one whom Miyazaki considers his teacher. For example, the movie Princess Mononoke writes about the basic conflict between nature and civilization. We all know Miyazaki is an ecologist. He's on his side of nature. Civilization acts as an antagonist here. Despite this, Miyazaki abandons his obvious opposition. This is exactly what Miyazaki's style is expressed in, with fairy tales without real villains. And if in the castle in the sky, Laputa antagonists were pirates in the military. Whatever then after this film, he rejected the tool of the basic conflict, real stereotypical villains. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, or My Neighbor Totoro, and subsequent works, they are all united by the absence of major evil in history. Even in his after films, he was working diligently not only for his main characters, but for antagonists as well, making them alive in the pages of his album, making them not an evil, but a characters with different targets and world vision. Actually, you might saw the outlines of the Miyazaki style in the film Castle in the Sky, when, during the pursuit of the young girl Sita, the pirates transformed from the antagonist into the girl's mates. Well, the fact that military-made antagonists, and clearly defined as a standard evil in cartoon stories, is more like a director's statement than some kind of standard template for building an anime. Returning back to the Princess Mononoke, Mistress Abishe represents civilization in the cartoon, evil in essence, but again, she cares too much about her army and civilians, redeeming women from concubine and allows them to work in factories, allows lepers and infected people to work for her. She gives shelter to those people who have been driven out by their own tribe, as happened with our main character, Last Emisha Prince, Ashitaka. What does it mean you will soon die, but if you go to the west there, I don't know where, and you will find something, I don't know what exactly, there is an opportunity to be saved. Of course his tribe wanted to get rid of him. As well as the Valley of the Wind citizens and other kingdoms after an apocalyptic war that destroyed civilization, was dealing with the creatures from the vast toxic jungle as an evil. At the end of the picture, the formidable and seemingly invincible poisonous monsters under the armor turned out to be a reflection of humanity, almost like a mirror. If people want only bloodshed, war and pain, they defend themselves. But if you genuinely care about them, they will care about people in return. What happened to our main character, Nausicaa, the princess of the Valley of the Wind, who sincerely fought for this planet and its inhabitants? The subtheme of the story is, of course, a reflection of Japanese history with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and how funny is it a deadlock that almost 40 years after the release of this film, humanity again embarked on a cruel path, like will never change. And now, in our decade, directorial metaphors, 7 fire days and a huge titan, become clear images before the frightened eyes of people. As I mentioned before that Miyazaki prefers female characters, they are always more elaborate, more symbolic, brave in his pictures. And despite the fact that the main character here is a man, anyway, Miyazaki worked more on 2 main women in this film, Lady Ebashi and Princess of Wolves. In most cases, Hayao reflects precisely the plot in his films, visually and poetically, showing a sincere true freedom of soul and heart from the external influence of troubles and adversities. He puts meanings into forgiveness and kindness in this world. Conclusion. Children want to see such cartoons that they will not understand now, but they will understand it later. Looking back into Japanese animation history, we can think of several great directors, but I believe that Hayao Miyazaki is the best one among them. His ideas, story development, rich background, depth of thought are all extraordinary, even amidst the best creators and creations. Furthermore, he was able to break over the limits of animation, together with the likes of Akira Kurosawa, Shohei Mamoru, and Takeshi Kitano. Today, his talent is admired worldwide. In fact, why Miyazaki is so appreciated and followed internationally? Although there are many popular Japanese domestic directors, most of them have not succeeded in projecting themselves overseas. After browsing articles and books of Miyazaki's genius, I can better comprehend the reasons why Miyazaki has. His works develop in unexpected ways, capturing the cultures of countries, as well as creating his own characters from legends that never existed before. His themes are common to every country and people, yet his worldview is based on Japanese national culture. But his nationalism is very peculiar. It means identity based on his personal roots, and not narrow ethnothetic discourse. In this way, genuine nationalism becomes compatible with genuine internationalism. Miyazaki's production often involve familiar and recurrent topics, but they should not be interpreted as a uniform message with a single purpose. In fact, Miyazaki's works are defined by the honest depiction of ambivalent aspects of life and human morality, and his final message is never clear-cut, only guiding us to reflection and allowing us to think for ourselves. Miyazaki never publicly proposed solutions to environmental problems. He invites us to an awakening. However, it is important to know that even though Miyazaki makes extensive use of binary opposing meta-narratives, old and new, Japanese and foreign, reality and fantasy, male and female, self and others, sacred and profane, human and non-human. In the end, he does not collide such conflicting ideas, but he strives towards the merger of energies. By blurring the line that separates them, a much more interconnected and extended vision of the structure of reality is affirmed. One is that neither shadow nor light, yet yin and yang, at the same time. For the topic of exploring ocean spirituality, Nurse provides an excellent platform for discussion of nature and environment, as well as fields in the wars. Givers and Monarchy are channels to less intelligent folklore and finding a spirited resource and ideal starting point for expanding upon each spirit identity and self. This is what distinguishes his work, full of realism and contemporary problems, ecology, war, technology. All his works, one way or another, are a reflection of the director's memories and experience of any people who already existed on this planet, characters from fairy tales, or religions that existed in the hearts of millions. Timeless, universal themes such as the importance of family unity and traditional values, the quest for self-discovery, gender justice, the centrality of the spiritual realms, the futility of war, respect and admiration of Mother Earth, and the limitless power of love. But a few of the gems contained in Miyazaki's set of compositions, always available for those who desire to experience it. It was Karina. See you soon.